Welcome back. Thanks for staying with us. The Constitutional Court is set to determine whether there will be a television blackout for many citizens from the end of June this year, when government plans to switch off analogue TV broadcasting. Now, all of this comes as a matter of delaying the analogue switch off until sufficient people have migrated to digital TV reception is before the court. Spokesperson for the Peoples Media Consortium and a member of the #SaveFreeTV campaign, Hassen Lorgat, joins us for more on this. A very good evening to you. Thank you so much for your time. Perhaps let's start at the beginning, just to give our viewer who may not understand what this process is all about some background information.
Well, it depends how long you want to go back, but in 2008, Minister Masivuri initiated this program as part of the government, I think in the Mbeki era. And it started, wobbled along, halted. In fact, one of the judges today said it went to a Rip van Winkle sleeping phase and then woke up with this new minister who was appointed around about August, who appears very close to the corporations, who then promised that she will move on the spectrum, selling off of the spectrum, freeing the spectrum, which supposedly will move us into a new era of digital migration, which the government have not managed to do over the decades. So the problem really starts in this court case. There was a High Court court judgment which stopped the minister from cutting off those who didn't have analog or didn't have digital TVs and set-top boxes. It gave them until the end of June. ETV, in effect, just won some breathing space and then appealed this matter, which was heard today from 10 o'clock this morning and just ended now as we're about to start this program. So, essentially, what is at stake is whether free-to-air television programs, the community TV programs, SABC, ETV, would be able to broadcast after June, the end of June. The minister said we have to migrate and free up this spectrum space that can be used by other people. As you know, the spectrum was bought recently by MTN and Vodacom, who bought up largely the spectrum, and then of course Rain and other smaller parties bought the others. But our view as Save Free TV, we believe that we can live together with getting the majority of us to move towards digital migration, which is our desired approach, but also save those with 700 megahertz, save that spectrum to be almost a dual system, terrestrial and digital. The whole of Africa has that system anyhow. So quite clearly for us, we don't understand what is this rush unless it's to enrich some people. So the court will work very, very hard on the minister's lawyers. They asked the minister why she did not give an affidavit to give the state of play, how this is happening. Clearly for us it's been shambolic from the start. The registration, which the minister wanted to use as a gauge to see how people are taking up this set-top boxes, was poorly managed. It's rushed, and the date was arbitrarily set, a 3-week deadline, and the court interrogated for a long time how this was done. And Mr. Mutau, representing the minister, said, no, don't only look at it from October, right, the 3-week period. Look back from 2015. And then could only come up with 2 small notices that the government issued. But governments issue a lot of notices. Look, they issued a notice regarding building a 100-meter flag, which the public went against. This interplay between citizens and its leaders is one that the democracy is made of, not only voting from time to time. So the court really want the minister to issue a report, an affidavit, by next Wednesday, which then allows ETV and the Media Monitoring Africa and SAS, our partners, to reply to that. And we'll see whether there'll be a TV blackout for the millions of people. From as little as 2.5 million people will be blacked out, or 8 million, because we've argued the way that the system has been done now jeopardizes the rights of poor people to watch TV, which is a right that they've had. And there was a lot made in the court case today about this not being a real right. It is a real right. You have the right to receive information, but also to impart it. This is a fundamental right to communication, and it's contained in the Constitution. You know, there was a rhetorical statement by Justice Theron. She says, it seems that what these guys are trying to do, Vodacom and the minister, is like shutting off public libraries to promote e-books. Now, you know we have a digital divide in this country, right? Where people are poor. The World Bank put South Africa down in a very notorious report stating we are the most unequal society in the world. And they found that location, above gender and other factors, is a determinant of your poverty. If you're born in a Mkuku, right, your chances for going far in life will not be realized. So clearly, they have to deal with this, and that is the problem that they're not dealing with. And for us, the case has been community TV is very, very important. The case didn't air it very, very much. There's a 3-tier systems of television, right? Community and regional TV tells us stories about ourselves. I'm in a township here. I don't see myself enough on TV. And it's not a competition with Newsroom Africa or with SABC or TTV. They can connect with these local broadcasters and take the stories from communities and grow our consciousness and the quality of debate in our society.
Let's talk a little bit about the missing middle, so to speak, when it comes to, accessing television and the violation that you speak of. Perhaps an expansion on what the criteria is to qualify for the government subsidy scheme.
Well, variously they've listed, they didn't put on a license fee. They said if you're on a social grant and if you're earning less than 3,500 a month, you will not be able to qualify for that. So the cutoff point is 3,500. The point we've argued very systematically and consistently is that we know, because the Black Sesh has worked on social grants, environmental monitoring group, our members, Workers' World, Cape TV and others, cater for working class audiences. And what we have found, for example, the farm workers, and I work with mining communities in my own work, but we found that farm workers and domestic workers are amongst the poorest in this country, but they have a job, right? They have a job, but they earn, according to a study, 4,000 on average, 4,125. Now, you know, many of us had mums who are domestic laborers, that traveling to work eats up 1,000 somewhat, giving school fees, paying for the food, right? These are the working poor. They go to work only to survive, not to save or anything else. And this category has hardly been entertained in this discussion. We regard those as the indigent, and I'm hoping that Justice Kollopan and others who are present there today can actually challenge them on their fundamental obligation to the poor. In fact, the Vodacom seem to think that everyone will be watching TV and that on a smartphone. It's not true, you know. Television and that, when people sit together in communities watching, I said, Mvango or those kind of programs, or Sivanelan, or whatever it is, bring people together, watching the news, getting reports on COVID, gives neighbors a chance to watch the same thing and have a conversation across the fence, right, about what's happening in our society. And this will be lost. Clearly, television is very, very important. We can understand where the telcos are coming from. They're looking at how to make money out of this. But clearly, televisions and others and radio have helped to stimulate debate and discussion in our communities, and an integral fiber of the democracy in the society. And that's what the Broadcast Act actually said about them. You know, they seem to have forgotten this with the rush to simply think everybody is going to be on digital. Of course, digital is the desired one, but as you know, left on their own devices, these powerful groups like MTN and Vodacom and others, when they grab hold of the spectrum, will only be worried about their own interests unless we put pressure on them. So clearly these things are interrelated, but we do believe that broadcasting is a public good. It's one of our commons that we have to protect.
There have been many failed deadlines for this switchover, and you keep making mention, Mr. Lorgat, about the questioning why this process needs to be rushed. Would it make a difference whether or not it was rushed? Surely it would mean that the very same people will still be left behind.
Not if the court rules that there should be specific efforts to include them. I mean, the minister and others have not run any decent campaign. I mean, at the best of times, I think probably in the early 2000s when we had controversy around HIV/AIDS, for obvious reasons, you know, but where we had active civil society and people in government wanting to try and deliver antiretrovirals. We even had at levels of campaigns where Soul City was talking about why it's important. You see, this right, the right to communicate, is a gateway right. It opens up access to other rights. If you can't read or listen to what the news says or be informed about what your rights are, you clearly cannot act on it. And there's an obligation on Chapter 10, Chapter 9 bodies like the Human Rights Commission to actually educate and inform the public, like the SABC and public channels, public service broadcasting, about how their rights can be promoted or attained, you know. And the government here seems to be trying to push us all onto DSTV or to get onto private channels. They're saying the voluntary migration. It's not. You know, you can say someone is on a 29 Rand system via whatever it is, right? But if you don't have that money, if it's a choice between buying bread or buying the connectivity, that means you will not be able to watch the free television channels that you were accustomed to. And this is what the minister is not realizing. It seems like they have abdicated the right of government to provide a quality service. And we can see it's become shambolic, not only on television, but wherever you go. When you see the floods and our bridges collapse, the newly formed built bridges collapse, there's a serious crisis of quality because of corruption and malmanagement. This is like another example in the broadcasting sphere.
Absolutely. Let's leave it there for now. Thank you for your time. Save Free TV campaigns. Hassen Lorgat speaking there about the rush, questioning why there is such a rush as the Constitutional Court is set to determine whether there will be a TV blackout for many South Africans